It's just paperwork.
Okay.
You're like one of my favorite teachers. So no, I'm not.
To suck up. She's gonna ask for something in the future. She's gonna ask you for something in the future, like money or something. What about
It's
that?
coming, huh? Alright, so we have been working on writing equations of lines. We did not do anything Friday because we had to play. So Thursday we just took a day of review because I didn't want to start something new before we were gone for several days. So we are going to pick up here. So first thing, we need to talk about parallel and perpendicular.
I love parallel.
So, what does parallel mean?
Straight. Two angles going straight.
Okay.
Don't intersect.
Right. Two lines that never intersect. So we have lines that never meet. That's parallel. Think railroad tracks. Okay, it would be a big problem if those intersected. They have to stay the same distance apart all the time. How do you know if two lines are going to be parallel? They have to have the arrows.
They're parallel.
How could we look at an equation and know if they'd be parallel? The same way. Yeah. So they have to be the same steepness, right? If they're not going to intersect. What's the word we use for the steepness of a line? Slope. So to know if they are parallel, they have to have the same slope. Alright, so for example, if I said y equals 2x plus 1, y equals 2x minus 7. Both of those have a slope of 2. It's the same, so those would be parallel lines. If we graph them, they would never cross one another. Alright, perpendicular. What's true about those?
They cross each other.
What's the measure of this angle when they cross? Or what kind of angle do they make? So lines. Come in. And somebody just hitting the door.
You got me.
Nah, bro. There ain't nobody out there.
I thought you just walked out.
Well, I saw a dude walk away, but I was like, dude, you need to come in. He just gave me a look and he came down.
So, lines that form a right angle or a 90-degree angle, those are perpendicular. What would have to be true about the slopes for that to happen? The angle is 90. They're opposite reciprocals. So for instance, if I said y equals 2/5 x minus 1, the line perpendicular is the opposite sign, so it would be a negative, and reciprocal, so you flip that slope. So those two lines would be perpendicular. Their slopes are opposite signs and they are reciprocals. If you flip one, you get the other. All right. So the first thing I want to do is just practice what we mean by those opposite or negative reciprocals. So if I said 3/4, what would the opposite reciprocal be? Negative 4.
Oh.
Flip it and change the sign. Both parts. If we had positive 2, this is like 2/1. Negative
1/2.
1/2, yeah. Flip it and change the sign. Okay, so anytime you have a number, if you don't have a fraction, we can always put it over 1. And then we flip it. Alright, if negative 7/8, what would that one be? Okay, positive 1. This is just 1 over 1. When you flip it, it's the same. So just negative 1 or negative 1 over 1. Alright, 0. Let's think about that. This is like 0 over 1. When you flip it, what do you get?
1
1 over 0. What happens if you have 0 on the bottom? Undefined. We can't divide by 0. What kind of line has a slope of 0? Remember our hoy and bucks, horizontal. And then what kind of line has a slope undefined? Vertical. And horizontal and vertical would make a right angle. Okay. So now we're going to practice deciding if our lines are parallel or perpendicular. Starting out, they are giving us the ordered pairs for each of those lines. So what am I going to have to find first? Slope. So we have to do the slope for each of them. So if I think about this first one, we know slope, we have done it many times now. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we get a 3 over 4 for the first slope. And we have to do the second one.
How can it be either?
So if the slopes aren't the same, or they're not opposite reciprocal. So 2 and 3. They're not the same slope, but they're not flipped reciprocals. This one, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we get a 3 over 4. So I look, those slopes are the same, which tells me what kind of lines are they. Do another one together. If I look at this first one, slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. 4 minus 2 is 2. 5 minus 0 is 5. So we get 2 over 5. Second one, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So 3 minus 8 is negative 5. 3 minus 1 is 2. So compare. Are they the same slope? No. Are they opposite reciprocals? One's positive, one's negative. Flip one, you get the other. So these are perpendicular. I would like for you guys to try 3 and 4. Okay, so for 3, the first slope you get negative 2 over 3. if they're going to be perpendicular, what would we have to get for the next slope? Positive 3 over 2. Okay, so then we do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. We get 1, 4. So these are not the same, but they are not opposite reciprocals, so we just say neither. These are just two lines that will cross at some point, but they don't make a right angle when they do. Last one here. So first slope, 4 minus 3 over negative 1 minus 2. So you get 1 over negative 3. So what would the slope of a line perpendicular have to be? We do the other one. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And we get positive 3 over 1. So not same, but they're opposite reciprocals, so this one's perpendicular. Right, so if I give you the points, can you find the slopes and tell me parallel, perpendicular? All right. We're only going to do one more of these. I want to do number 5. So when I do my first slope, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. We get 9 divided by 0. What is 9 over 0? Undefined. Can't have 0 on the bottom. So a parallel line would have a slope undefined. What kind of slope would a perpendicular line have? 0. Check the other one. y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. We get 0 over 3, which is 0. So these are perpendicular. 0 and undefined would be perpendicular. Any issues with that? Okay. Let's look at these last few. Also, alright, let's look at these. So, what if I give you the equations and we need to decide if they're parallel or perpendicular? What would we have to do? Parallel and perpendicular is based off what? Slope. How do you find the slope of these lines? They have to be in slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. And then the slope is just our coefficient on x. So this first one, my slope is 7. My second one, my slope is 7. So these are parallel. What about number 10? First one is 4/5. Second one, -5/4. So those are perpendicular. What about 11? Neither. We have a positive and a negative. -1/3, +1/3. But to be perpendicular, one of them has to flip. So this is a neither. All right. Number 12. What am I going to have to do there? We have to subtract the x. We have to get it to y equals mx plus b form. So this would be 6y equals -x plus 30. Then what do we do? We get a -1/6 x plus 5. So this one has a slope of -1/6. Second one, what do we have to do? Divide y equals 6x minus 2. So that one has a slope of positive 6. So what are those?
How would the left and the perpendicular?
Because they're opposite, but they're not reciprocals. One of them would have to be like a positive 3. If you have a negative 1/3, when you flip it.
Because you like imagine there's a one.
Okay. Let's do, why don't you guys try 13 for me? So we have to subtract the 5x. So negative y equals negative 5x plus 4. Divide by negative 1. So y equals 5x minus 4. So the slope is 5. That's like 5 over 1. So what's the slope of this one? And what's that mean? Alright. Those okay? The last one I want to look at, number 16. We can't write those in y equals mx plus b form. Remember, boy and bucks. So if it's a y, what kind of line is it? Horizontal, and the slope is 0. If it's an x, it is a vertical line, and the slope is undefined. So what kind of lines are those? A 0 and an undefined are always perpendicular. Alright, that is our stopping point for today. So I have practice for you guys.